If this wisdom is the key to reality, why isn't it exploding in the world? What's the real barrier? Baal HaSulam, the great Kabbalist of the previous century, writes about it. He called this an iron wall standing between us, meaning people, humans, and the wisdom of Kabbalah. I'm not going to go into the whole history of Kabbalah, but long story short, about 2,000 years ago, this wisdom was completely hidden. And there's reasons for that, spiritual reasons, but it has to do with the development, the maturity of mankind. The problem is that the reason you are sensitive to this wisdom, the reason you can hear it and feel it and work with it is because you are developed. It's because your desire for spirituality, what Kabbalists call the point in the heart, that seeker point within you is developed. You probably aren't aware of that, but you've been developing that point for many life cycles. And the fact that it appears to you right now in this reality, in time and space, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It represents an entire evolution, spiritual evolution that you already went through. And so the world en masse, all of humanity, is also developing. But there's a difference between what we call collective providence, let's call it like that, and individual providence. In a nutshell, all of humanity, the mass of humanity, develops according to a different program than unique individuals in every generation. There were just a handful of people in ancient times. In our time, we're already talking about thousands and dozens of thousands of people, and that's a lot because humanity is built in a spiritual sense much like a pyramid. And the base of the pyramid is actually very, very broad, and the tip of the pyramid is very, very tiny. And this is similar to how everything else in nature works. If you look into, for instance, how our body is governed by our brain, there's really a small area in the brain that conducts most of the operation of the entire body. Of course, there's nervous system that spans throughout the whole body, but ultimately there's a very small area in our brain that governs the entire body. And anywhere you look in nature, the more qualitative forces, the less quantitative they are. And so it is the same with regards to the spiritual development of mankind. That barrier is a matter of development. What we don't see is that every little step that we do, those who are already conscious of spiritual development, who can see that this is the purpose of human development, when we make even just the slightest effort, we need to realize that we're pulling everyone else with us, even if we can't see it. And at some point, the program of what we call collective providence. When I say providence, don't interpret it in a religious sense. It's nature's plan. It is the creator's plan, the thought of creation that governs and pushes all of creation to its purpose. We want, of course, the people who are interested in spiritual development, we want to see the world developing, but there are certain levels of this development, this evolution, spiritual evolution that need to happen, and we need to do our part. But the need in humanity is still brewing. And the more we can both tell them about humanity's purpose and move towards that on our own, the less time and suffering will be required for most of humanity to develop. Rabash, my teacher's teacher, he writes that when I look at the world and I see all the wars and all the conflicts and all of the suffering, it makes me focus on just one thing, and that is doing my work of prayer for love of others to dwell in mankind. And love of others will not happen without spiritual development. They're one and the same. And that's why true world peace, true peace in the world, will never come without spiritual development. The two are intertwined. What we think of as peace in corporeal terms, it's not peace. It's all kinds of agreements, treaties that have to do with economics, that have to do with military agreements. They're not a change of heart. They don't represent any spiritual development of the people. any development of human perception where we actually begin to feel as one. And that's what's required, and that's the barrier